we are in. It is day one. Lots has changed overnight. It's all looking like a proper built-up show, and yeah, gonna get to the car and try and maybe get it in the air before the public come in, so I don't squash anyone or make anyone trip over. Here we are, 3 cars on the stand. Nigel's Auto Vanderplas V8, my Gold V8S, and JJ's single plenum Vitesse. But before, yeah, as I say, the crowds arrive, I'm going to get the jack and stands out and get it up in the air so that I'm not in the way of everyone else, and hopefully I won't have tools any further forward than that line, which is where our stand ends. Most of my work will be in and around in here, back there, and reasonably well protected, so I won't get sued. Here's an insight into how sort of hectic the last hours or so before leaving were. I literally just threw everything in the boot in a rather haphazard order. What I should have done is put the things I need first somewhere accessible, which I didn't. So I need to unbury everything and then yeah, find somewhere safe to put it all and then crack on. I must look like such a professional with my random blocks of wood. I think that's even still got a nail in it, and my wheel boxes, but never mind. How good is that? This is better than my garage at home. Nice flat floor, actually quite good light, and we can crack on. Yippee! Because there ain't the best of cleaning places in the NEC for mechanics' hands anyway. I'm making sure I'm wearing a lot of gloves, and I'm going to try and do all the cleaner stuff, like get the selector out, working from the interior side, and the reverse warning lights. Get all of that done before I get myself absolutely filthy, and then we can move on to the mucky stuff, like draining the old ATF. In fact, why am I putting that there? That's a really retarded, excuse me, silly thing to do. So I need to remove that, which means I need to undo the 10mm cup, slide that up out of the way, and then lever the detent springs off the little arms, and then this whole thing will slide out. I just have to make sure that I don't fire the friction pin and spring anywhere. Then I can undo the reversing lights, which are those two, get under the car, drain the fluid, remove the Fleedo cable. Well, I'm under the car. It's probably about 2 o'clock on Friday, the first day. I've got a lot of stuff done, but not as quick as I would normally because I've been gas bagging. But up there is one of the really irritating to get to bolts, and that's why I took the exhaust manifold off, because I can actually get to them now with the engine, oh sorry, the gearbox cross member off, and the gearbox lowered at the rear end on the trolley jack. So with that very long extension, you can get right over the top of the bell housing and up to those, one each side, and they're the problem bolts. So hopefully I can crack them off and we'll get the gearbox out. I have the beginnings of a problem. Right up there, you can see my socket on the top bell housing bolt on the near side. That doesn't want to go on, so that's a 6-sided socket, and I think what's happened, somebody has rounded or distorted the head of the bolt slightly when they've wanged it in there, which means that that doesn't want to go on nicely. So I'm going to go and get a hammer and smash it on, and then just hope that it holds enough for me to crack it off. But yeah, slight squeaky bum time moment. We have done pretty well. Ta-da! Gearbox out. Right, a recap, because I've been nattering again. Box is out. I have been looking at the bits and pieces that came out with it. That's the fork from the car, which has had a welded reinforcement across the bit where the pivot arm goes. It's a weak point on some of these and some Range Rovers as well. The pivot, which is that bit, basically punches through there. So that's what it looks like originally, and somebody's just welded a strip of steel. Fine, happy with that. That's an original one, and I was going to fit that, but then I noticed that that bit there, which the slipper pad goes on, is knackered, so that effectively is ready for the bin. That's the slave rod, which shouldn't have a nut bodged on the end, but does have a nut bodged on the end, and I don't really know why, because it hasn't actually increased the length of it at all, or, you know, only very marginally so. So why they've done that, I don't know, but that I can access and replace without going into the, you know, I can do that externally. So I'll refit that for the moment and worry about it later. That's ignore that, that's the release bearing, which I know is good. I know that's new, and the carriage moves nice and freely. So I'm going to strip that selector off, remove the bell housing, start prepping all of those bits to go on the new gearbox. Just started swapping bits over, so I've taken the selector lever off there, select a cartridge, that can go on, bell housing will go on. I'm thread locking bits and pieces as well as I go. Here we are under the car. Did not expect that. That looks to be some kind of snazzy clutch, and I am basing that opinion just on colours, so don't hold me to it. The cover looks like AP up there. What does that say? AP, yeah, so the cover plate is an AP one. Can't see any writing on the friction plate. Oh no, it is, yeah, that's AP as well. Never seen a green and red one, so meh. The flywheel surface looks like it's had some attention at some point in its life. Nothing particularly horrible. Yes, there's a bit of oil around the bell housing, but I don't really care. It's an old car. This is the horror show of welded patches, and that is why long term this engine box is coming out. I'm going to chop the chassis rail here and there, unpick the whole lot from the floor, bin it, rebuild it. This side, strangely, is quite nice. So yeah, odd how they rust, but it is directly underneath where the brake master cylinder and the clutch hydraulics are, so probably leaked, paint came off and then it corroded and it's just got worse. I'm so tempted to poke that bit, but I'll leave poking for another time. The drain for the heater box looks good. Nothing too scary in here at all. And the fingers for the clutch aren't damaged either. It's still got the right pilot bearing in it. And the splines for the friction plate look good as well. So all in all, not a lot to do under here. The gearbox is over there. I'll just put that back together. The one in the background is the good one. So yeah, I can start thinking about putting it back in. So that's old gearbox, new gearbox. I'm just copper slipping things like the release bearing. I'll do the pivot arm and I'll put the fork back in, and then we'll get ready to reassemble. Ta-da! Gearbox is in, only one bolt holding it at the moment, but that was excellent. Because I didn't have to mess around with the clutch, I didn't have any alignment issues, so it actually slid straight on. I had it in gear so I could wriggle the output shaft with one hand whilst feeding it on that way. John manned the jack and I just lay under here and smashed it on there. So that is good. I'm going to put the two bell housing bolts right at the top, and then I can do the rear what you call it, cross member bracket thing. It's 6 o'clock on the end of the first day, the Friday. I'm knackered. Box is in, dummy sort of mounted. I've put the rear mount in, and it's sat on its new cotton reel bush things up in there. So tomorrow should be a rather leisurely, or rather more leisurely day of poncing around, gas bagging, putting stuff back together, and yeah, drinking lots of coffee.